Is it time?
It's time. You're on.
What an exciting day. So genetic mutations, they exist.
Make you good, make you powerful. X-Men.
Yes, that's exactly what we're going to talk about. You've ruined everything. It's about the X-Men. So often you might not even know you have one because it might make no difference. You may have what would be considered a mutation, but whatever.
Okay,
No
cool.
big deal. So you can tick along quite fine. Of course, some of them are shitty and awful.
Yes.
So like cystic fibrosis.
I know. I don't know it, but I know it's awful.
It's a cracker. So it affects the respiratory system and it can also affect digestive and reproductive systems. You get this unusually thick mucus lining in your lungs. It can lead to fatal infections. It can obstruct the pancreas, which isn't cool, and mess with the digestion. That's why they're always getting their lungs tapped and stuff. So that's not a good one.
Hang on, they're getting their lungs tapped?
Yeah, you see the cystic fibrosis, they often have kind of empty their lungs, get all the shit out.
Wow.
It looks horrendous, and they sleep on weird angles. It seems horrible. Tay Sachs is another cracker, so that one can cause an accumulation of fat in nerve cells around the brain.
Okay, so Tay Sachs.
Tay Sachs, it's a hyphenated Tay Sachs.
Okay, all right.
That leads to paralysis, dementia, blindness, psychosis, and often death.
Yeah. I get the feeling you're going to introduce me to one that I'm super not going to like.
Why would I do that to you?
I don't know. That's just what you do to me.
No, this is a positive episode. So some of them can be good.
Oh, okay. All right.
Not just X-Men good.
Yeah.
See, I'm messing with your mind. You don't know which way I'm going to go. So some people have been found to have a mutation to a gene called, and you'll know this one, SLC3088A8.
I love
solute
that
carrier
gene.
30.
Yeah, indeed.
Member 8.
Yeah.
You know that one.
They name genes so well. Like
I know.
It's like naming planets or something like that. Why don't get people involved and say you can call this Gary's gene or Griselda's
Well, this
gene?
means something. Like this one apparently the SLC3088 or solute carrier family 30, member 8. So it rolls off the tongue.
So it means something more than that? How's it possible to mean something more than that?
No idea. But apparently people with that, they're 65% less likely to get diabetes even when they have other higher risk factors like obesity, etc.
Okay, that's cool.
So that's not a bad one.
Yep.
You got a low cholesterol mutation, so it's a particular one that means
I think I've got that.
I think you do.
I think I've got
so
that.
well.
I got, okay, it wasn't the GP's practice record, but when I was 16, they tested my cholesterol and they said it's the second lowest ever recorded in the practice.
That's dangerous.
No, in a good way. They said it in a good way. They said second best.
You come home from the doc. How was it? Oh, my cholesterol's dangerously high. Low. So there's one called there's a protein called cholesterol ester transfer protein, CETP. And if you've got a deficiency in that, apparently it gives you high levels of good cholesterol, which helps put the shitty stuff into the liver and flush it out.
All right, I don't know if I've got that. I'm self-diagnosed.
Well, that's the best kind of diagnosis. It's personal.
It's the only one I got.
It means something. This one's real. But people with that have less coronary heart disease, etc. So that can be a useful one.
That sounds
but
good.
usually it's not that easy to pinpoint. So you get all these different mutations, or you get people who seem to have quirky genetics, and you don't exactly know. There's a correlation between a whole bunch of weird things and other stuff, and it seems to look good or bad.
Yeah.
So you've got these groups of people who suss out what they call the unusually healthy elderly, or the welderly, as they like to call them.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a t-shirt. And they figure, well, these people are really old, and they've got no diseases of aging. They've lived a long time. Let's check them out and see what's different. So people hypothesize, they must have a perfect genome, or they're basically lean, active, non-smoking, light drinking, low-stress vegetarians with excellent social support.
Or it's the air, or it's the low stress, or could be anything.
Exactly. It looks like it's neither, either, both, some. And so there was a study done a couple of years ago that looked at, it sequenced the full genomes of 44 centenarians, 100-plus-year-olds.
Yep.
That group had 250 different mutations linked to Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, cardiovascular disease.
These aren't necessarily the things you want or that help live for a long time.
They're not the best ones.
No. Okay, so they still had them.
As far as diseases go.
So these were the welderly, the super healthy centenarians who are old and super healthy, but they still had had genes linked to Parkinson's, Alzheimer's.
A bunch of them did. Yep.
Okay.
Some of them were obese. Others had been lifelong smokers. Some had never regularly exercised, and none of them.
I just want to question the definition of super healthy at this point. Not a value judgment here. I just
zero signs of chronic disease at age 100.
All right.
I mean, that's tip the hat. And so what they're basically saying is, well, that means there's heaps of things that could be going on. We're not quite sure, but it's got to be genes and shit. And so I was reading this going, come on. I'm a perverse bastard. I wanted to look for something that was a genetic mutation
that will help you live forever.
Well, that too, obviously. Always looking for that, though.
Amongst your Estonian people, you want to find out if the Estonians live forever.
I'm Latvian.
Oh, Lithuanian.
Fucking jerk.
I come on.
My people have killed for less. They haven't really.
Yeah.
Too busy drinking giant gins. But I thought, surely, are there any that are they look terrible, but they have benefits as well? I want the perverse ones.
Hang on. The people look terrible, like some sort of
or the not necessarily look themselves, but just like, is there any sort of mutation where you kind of go, oh fuck? Then it turns out, and you grow an extra limb and can juggle with your butt cheeks or something.
You are doing a Silver Linings episode.
That's what I was thinking.
Silver Linings. Okay.
Yeah. So I rummaged around, and I may have found one.
What do you got? Welcome to the Wholesome Show, the Silver Linings of Science podcast for people who sit up the back of the classroom.
And in which we ask the stupid, ridiculous, pointless, interesting, maybe wrong questions, because that way you don't have to.
The Wholesome Show is me, Will Grant, and...
me, Dr. Roderick Griffin Lamberts, chairman of the Silver Lining and Genetics Committee.
Nice.
Recently formed.
Yeah, well, cool. Do you have any other members? Do you need another member?
Do you want to join?
I need to pad my CV out, so...
No, you can be cool. The treasurer.
Cool. Treasurer.
Because someone's got to look after the cash.
You got to do the details then. You got to do the banking forms.
Come on, you love a form.
The Wholesome Show is brought to you by the Australian National Centre for the Public Awareness of Science.
And genetic mutation.
Yeah.
Not the X-Men version.
Well, I'm sure you're going to make us aware of genetic mutation now.
I might help out. So get yourself comfy. Put your feet up.
I'm ready to go. School me.
We're going to begin with Zvi Laron.
Zvi Laron?
It's a person. Zvi. What a great name. Z-V-I. Zvi Laron. Or Laren?
Probably not Laren.
Yeah, it's probably... look, everything's American, so it's probably Laren. Anyway, he was born back in 1927 in what was Romania, but is now part of the Ukraine. And
so he probably didn't pronounce his name in an American way.
Oh, look, I don't know.
Probably didn't.
Encompassing.
I don't know how much American culture they embraced in the Ukraine in 1926. I don't think it was a lot.
I'm thinking, I know it's 2020 now, and people don't realize this, but America used to be quite a force in the world for quite some time.
I'm sure.
Way back when.
I'm sure, but still, I mean, he probably had a Ukrainian pronunciation of Z.
/ Romanian. So I found out as I was rummaging around about this guy, Romania and the Ukraine, the edges of their borders were heavily smashed about between Nazis and Russians, and sounds like a delightful time. So he was born in, it was Romania, became the Ukraine now.
Okay.
After the Nazis invaded Germany in 1941, Romania allied with them.
Yep.
Because they wanted to get a chunk of land back from the USSR.
Cool. Team bad guy, though,
Oh, I get it. It happened to the Latvian people ended up allying with the Germans because the Germans were the fuckers who didn't invade their country.
I know. I get it. I get it. Look,
the fucker of my fucker is my fucky or something like this.
And you're a junior country. A junior country in that kind of war, you got to jump one way. Yeah. Neutrality is a hard thing to prosecute.
Oh, it's all a lie. No one's neutral, man. Anyway, so they wanted to get it back from the Russians. So this apparently didn't sit well with Zvi and his family. So at 14, they were sent off to camps in Transnistria.
Yes.
Who knew that existed? Have you heard of Transnistria?
Near Transylvania? I kind of have heard of it, Transnistria. Other than that,
I feel like you should have, but yeah, it's on the edge of the Ukraine and Romanian border.
Geography buff, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm geography impaired, but it was it's on the border, and at the time was administered by Romania. So if you look on a map, it's this map, right? Do you like maps?
I love maps. Yeah,
I've heard you like maps. Yeah, it's kind of, I think, a nice contested area. So they went there to camps.
Okay.
His uncle started a factory and employed as many Jews as he could, so he could save them from worse fates than working in a factory or living in a camp.
Okay, we're going with his uncle is an okay person at this time, but
Well, if you're a Jew, I think he sounds like a good guy.
there's a lot of
He might not be great.
There's a lot of people who ran factories during that time that employed a lot of Jewish people that you wouldn't say were saving people. But
This guy makes Schindler look like an absolute murderer. I mean, he was so good. He was the best of the Larons. I don't know if that's true.
Don't go out there citing these things.
No, who's going to cite? If you'd like to cite this podcast, maybe this episode don't include Will's name.
Yeah, there you go.
So anyway, Zvi became he qualified as an iron turner so that he could, hang out there and be useful.
Turn iron.
So that's during the war.
Yep.
Yeah, why not? Pick it up, twist it around. You need skills for that. After the war, he started doing medicine, though, at a newly founded medical school in Western Romania, which is some of the best medical schools on the planet to this very day, obviously. He was also an active member of the Zionist students movement Hasmonia. So he was into that, Zionism and stuff, which is, of course, the city in the Matrix. That's what he was into.
You're so uncultured, man. This is why you need humanities degrees.
I'm prepared to pay double for them. That's a local and topical joke for those of you not listening in Australia. Anyway, he in 1947, then he basically illegally went to immigrate to what was sort of beginning of Israel / mandatory area of Palestine. So he took off illegally on a boat.
Okay.
Which I think is pretty brave in 47. So while he was on a ship full of Jewish refugees from Eastern Europe, they were captured by British Navy.
Oh, I thought you were going to say pirates. Not that that's good, but it's more of a story. British Navy weren't there to help?
Well, yeah, they were here to help keep the Mediterranean clear of such folk.
Oh.
So, helpful, like cleaners.
Right. Yeah, okay.
And so everyone on the ship was sent to internment camps in Cyprus.
Cool, more camps. More
Yeah.
camps.
It was post-war, so 47, yeah. But finally, Israel was invented.
Yes, 47.
Are you allowed? Can you say that?
Invented is a word that will be fought back against by many people, but agreed to by many people. Foundation of the modern state of Israel in 1947, 47, 48?
48, according to this source.
There you go. Yeah, the foundation of the modern state of Israel is a phrasing that is fairly okay with most people because it's a factual statement. It doesn't necessarily talk about ancient histories or anything like that.
So when everyone came together and totally agreed they'd invent Israel, he was freed.
Just again, don't cite me.
So Laron was free from the camps and he went there. He went off to Israel, or the early equivalent.
He's in Israel now.
Yeah, he's in Israel. In 52, he graduated his medical doctorshipness from a school in Jerusalem, which is great. He did his internship in Haifa.
Yeah.
I love the name of that. I think Haifa is such a cool word. I'm a fan of that. For no apparent reason. In the mid-50s, he went to America and did a bunch of research pediatrics, Massachusetts General Hospital, Harvard Medical School, this sort of thing. And he was really into childhood endocrinology. And as you know too, that's one of my passions.
I agree. I'm sure. So many things that you tell me about childhood endocrinology.
I wake up thinking about it. Say
the word endocrinology 10 times.
Endocrinology, I'm not going to say it 10 times. It's terrible podcast content.
There you go. You love it too
Endocrinology,
much.
That's twice. So it's difficult to get into that. That's why I went to Psychom, because it's just it's an old boys club to get into endocrinology, particularly childhood. So at the end of 57, he went back to Israel, joined another guy, and they started pediatric endocrinological clinic and research centers in Israel.
Okay.
Which is pretty cool. 58, he was a founder of another institution, which he was there till at least 92. So that's great. But during that period,
yes,
about 1966, he and a couple of buddies found and described a new kind of dwarfism.
Is that the right word?
People.
Okay.
That's what the sources call it. I'm just quoting
a new
the sources.
Kind.
Yeah, a different variation on dwarfism.
All right.
Where only your hands and feet are really small.
What? Really?
No.
Don't make up the key bit. You're going to tell me the key bit. You can make up other stuff.
So it was a rare condition. It ended up being named Laron syndrome.
Hang on. This is going to be one of those things where scientists say, I've discovered this new type of thing. And they go, cool, what's different about it? And they're like, you can't see the difference. It looks exactly the same as the other type of banana. Both bananas look exactly the same.
Yes.
Except to me. And I named these ones my bananas and those ones.
This is, in the words of the philosophers, it's the qualia.
Yeah, exactly. There is a difference. You can't tell.
No. And even to tell is to change. And
so it wasn't like they discovered a new type of dwarfism that hadn't been noticed at all before.
No, it was just a particular kind.
Okay.
Quite a rare kind. So they reckon in around Israel and Eastern Europe, maybe only 12 people had it.
Okay, that's quite rare. And you could,
rare.
all right, that would be enough that you could say it had never actually been seen, if they lived in certain spaces or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is what they're suggesting. And so the main, we shall call it, qualities of folk with this syndrome, very short.
Yeah.
Shock horror.
So hang on again. You said this was in Israel and Eastern Europe?
Israel and Eastern Europe was where they found about 12 of them.
Okay.
So abnormally short
Yeah.
stature, prominent forehead, depressed nasal bridge, underdevelopment of the mandibles, so around the jaw.
Jaw.
I love the description here. Truncal obesity, so chubby around the fat,
around the trunk. The trunk, yeah.
Around the trunk, exactly. So they don't have trunks. For those of you conjuring up images of elephants, this is not way that made them unusual dwarves. They weren't short people with trunks.
Yeah.
They had fat around the thorax and all that.
But they didn't have fat around the legs or the arms or something like that.
Pretty much like sticks.
Yeah. All right.
Frequently associated with a micropenis in males, it seems.
Okay.
And the females would have, quote, normal sized breast, in some cases verging towards the proportionally more voluptuous. So they would be large breasted.
Look. If you're describing a population of people, and I get that medically we do need to describe it, why do you describe the normal bits? Like
that's what I think what they're trying to say is
the women
it's
have
proportion.
A normal. Oh, okay. Yeah. So you're saying they have
a proportion issue. So because they say normal, I think what they mean was small people with breasts the size of less dwarven folk, therefore at times.
Are you serious? No, I'm thinking that sounds to me normal. Sounds to me like they said, all right, you got to check out their boobs as well, and they're like, okay, they look normal.
They look normal.
Write that down.
1 to 3 nipples on each breast, so no problem. No, it's pretty much about proportion, apparently. So they could be quite large in proportion to the rest of their bodies.
Okay.
Seizures are frequently seen related to hypoglycemia and stuff in them, so that's not great. Some genetic variations could lead to a little bit of intellectual decrease in intellectual capacity. So there was some suggestion. This is only in a few people so far.
Yeah, I'm gonna just guess here, just for a second here, though, that a tiny community in a part of the world, in a time of the world that did love to marginalise people and probably not school them very well, that any intellectual capacities may be a little bit attributed to how they might have been marginalised through the rest of the
slightly nature,
I don't know.
Nurture.
Maybe a little bit nurture.
Look, also the symptoms I'm listing are not from their original description; these are from later. So a few more cases were found. So that's also there may be more of them. My favourite is Laron syndrome patients apparently don't develop acne.
Really?
So that's one superpower.
Seriously. I don't know if do they find more than 12 because,
yes,
if they found 12, they're all 6-year-olds or 60-year-olds and there's not a lot of acne. And
none of them have zits.
No acne. We've cured it. All you have to do.
Yeah, it's true. And none of them, I don't know, are highly allergic to paint or coffee. No, nothing like that.
Look, I get that acne sucks, but that's it's weird superpower.
That's it. That's my whole story. These guys don't get acne.
Bum. Thanks for listening.
Fuck yeah, it's worth it. They said the only time they might get it is if they're getting temporarily treated with a growth hormone to try and boost their growth.
Oh, okay.
So it seems the reason this particular version of dwarfism, that they're resistant to growth hormones. So the growth hormones, I won't go into the scientific detail, gonadotrophin, blah, blah, blah. Their cells aren't sucking them up, basically, so they stay small.
Okay.
So even though a lot of other genes contribute to our height, growth hormones are the most important one. And without it,
hormones aren't genes, though. I know that.
No, but the way the genes help them express it, so it can.
Sorry for putting you in the science spot there. I just know they're different things because they've got different names.
I'm only science adjacent.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they do. They're spelt differently entirely. So that's that's the magic. So anyway, the growth hormones, there's a molecular defect in the cell's receptors, so they don't absorb growth hormone. There's a bunch of details around that makes for excellent listening, but that maybe is a different podcast.
Fair enough.
So that's what they look like. And you're probably thinking, what are the benefits? I mean, obviously acne, not getting acne is excellent.
Is it super strength?
Yes.
Or
and telekinesis.
Live forever. Telekinesis. Sure. Cool.
Yeah. I'm not very big, but I can lift a shitload with my mind.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. No, so to really find out what are the alleged benefits, we need to travel to South America. So we're leaving Israel and Eastern Europe because we've had enough of that. And so most of this comes from a report I was reading, an ABC USA reporter. Jeffrey Kaufman. And so in 2008, he says he was traveling in a remote rural southern region of southern Ecuador that was until recently cut off from the rest of the world. And he's traveling with a guy called Dr. Jamie Guevara, like Che Guevara, but probably not related, who's an endocrinologist, lucky bastard. I mean, who wouldn't want to be an endocrinologist?
Again, you love this thing. You could be an endocrinologist.
I want to be, but I told you, it's an old boys club. You can't get in. If you're not born into it, you can't get in. And so he's an endocrinologist from Ecuador's capital. And the name of Ecuador's capital is, do you know it? I'll give you 3 options.
Ecuador City.
That's not one of the options.
Oh, okay. What is it? Give me 3 options.
3 options. Spequiatl.
Oh.
Quito.
Yeah.
Quiatas.
It's Quito.
Nice. Quito. Yeah. I did my best, but my Ecuadorian's not that solid. So anyway, he was based in Quito, which is the capital of Ecuador, allegedly. And back in the 80s, he began studying a group of dwarves that are scattered around this area who have Laron's syndrome. So they reckon there are maybe 300 of these people in the world, and about 100 of them are in this region, Ecuador.
Okay.
So quite unusual. A third of them on the planet are all in this one spot. They're scattered around towns and remote villages within 100 miles of the main city in that region.
And just to confirm, this is a genetic disorder that we're talking about here. It's so it probably is passed down through some sort of pathway. So Eastern Europe, Israel, and Guatemala, Ecuador.
And the wilds of Ecuador.
Yeah,
I know. And so they're all within 100 miles of a city whose name is. Quito. I'm very happy about this.
Quito.
Piñas.
Okay.
I'm not kidding.
Why are you happy about that? Can you explain why you're happy about that? Can you explain why you're happy about that?
Because it's almost penis.
Okay.
Where do you live? Piñas. That makes me so happy. I might move there just for that.
Oh my god.
I know. I'm an adult. I got a PhD.
Oh my god.
So anyway, all these people live around that area. So they reckon they share a common ancestor, probably Jewish heritage, who fled southern Spain a few hundred years ago during the Spanish Inquisition.
Okay. Yep.
That's their bet. Talking about what you were saying. And they reckon generations ago they became Catholics, and so that sort of Jewish, etc., heritage sort of dissipated. And genetic tests showed that one of the dwarves clearly had cousins, etc., in Israel at some level, so distant cousins.
Yeah.
So the assumption is they fled from Spain, from Eastern Europe, etc., what is now Israel. And as Guevara put it, so evidently one of them came there at least and brought a genetic disease with him, apparently to him. And it got spread because of inbreeding, which is very popular in this area because it's remote.
Hooray.
I know, right?
Hooray.
I mean, if you're going to party with family. So the few interviews they did with some parental couples were first cousins, and it's very, very common in this area. So to get it, though, to actually get the disorder, both parents need to have the gene, and not all children who have both parents will get it.
So you have both parents. So you've got to have a little bit of the inbreeding. That's cool.
That's what it smells like.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes everyone in the village, you went to school with. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do? It's a small village.
When you're not near the non-family members you love the family members you're near. That's what the old adage is.
There you go. You're in this big urban population where you have a variety of humanity,
non-family members to breed with. It's true. I barely ever breed with family members these days because I moved to the big city. They should have all moved to Piñas.
Thank you.
But they didn't. So they're living in this area, high levels of inbreeding, etc. So to begin with, when Guevara was there, he was trying to treat the dwarves because he wanted to help them out. He wanted to help them at least maybe remove some of the effects of the disorder or help their children.
Live better lives.
Yeah. But then he started to see an interesting and quirky pattern.
What?
I know. He realized that
it's the acne. It's the acne.
No acne.
He's got a bigger sample size now, and he's still
zero zit cream in that village. Zero need for it. He brought some in, and they said, "What is this acne?" Which is a very good Ecuadorian accent. What is this acne?
I don't know. Again, that's worse. That's worse.
I'm like, ole! What is this acne? It's Spanish, right? There had never been a single incidence of cancer or diabetes among them.
What?
I know.
Whoa. Okay. They're all living normal length lives?
Oh, there's stuff about longevity to come.
Okay. But, you could say, a population of people who only live to the age of 12, Whilst obviously 11-year-olds do get cancer, but there's lower rates amongst childhood. So you could say, they didn't live very long, but they never had cancer, and that's not great.
Yes, they all lived till 8, but no heart disease.
Yeah.
A thing about longevity will come up in a moment, actually.
And look, I am interested in the diabetes bit as well. But I just got to say that no incidence of cancer is a huge one. Wow.
Yeah, I know, right?
And 300 people is enough to...
This is 100 of the people at least to begin with. So a third in the world, because he was specializing in this area. He just happened to be there. So he said he started noticing that somehow in this area, we all know in Ecuador, an area with high rates of cancer, generically, not one of these had ever died of it. He said he was talking at the time of about 135 names that he could think of. None of them ever died of cancer. To me, the possibility that this is a coincidence is almost none, because every single family in this case has at least 1 or 2 or 3 relatives that have died of cancer, but none of them Laurent's people.
So there's cancers around. It's a high prevalence area, but none of the Laurent's people. Wow.
Yep. So that was early stuff. So getting on a bit.
What sort of era are we talking here? This is
80s.
Yeah. Okay.
This is when he first started studying them. So getting on now, 22 years of studying these people. It's probably up to about 25, 26 if he's still doing it. So we're talking early 20-teens sort of area. So 22-year study confirmed none had ever had diabetes and only one had had cancer, and it wasn't lethal. Of all the people. So this is going further from the 80s to more recently. He'd been tracking the health of 99 individuals with the condition and 1,600 of their relatives who didn't have the mutation. So of the 1,600 normals who lived in the same towns and similar lifestyles, 5% got diabetes, 17% got cancer. So in his Laurent's group, the 199, 9 had died, but not of cancer or anything like that. 53 of their relatives with the condition died before the study began, but none had died of that. So a whole bunch of others in their non-group, the people who didn't have Laurent's, died of cancer or complications of type 2 diabetes. The one person who got cancer was a woman who had an ovarian tumor. She had it removed and has been cancer-free ever since 2008. And ovarian cancer is not a good one.
No.
But she was like, "Oh, just nip that out, would you, doc?" And she's fine.
Wow.
So, but they reckon in the relatives, the 1,600 relatives, 20% of deaths were cancer-related and 5% diabetes-related.
Do you know if that's above, below normal background rate? How does that compare to the rest of the world, to other populations?
That I'm not sure, because I'm only one man.
No, that's cool. We'll just go with that. Sure. We'll go with that as yes. But okay, the Laurent's population, we can say, is a fair bit lower than their neighbours or their brothers.
And these, these are relatives too. It's not just people next to them. It's people who are otherwise genetically in some ways linked. They just don't have that mutation. So before knowing about these dwarves, there were researchers at University of Southern California. It somehow induced the same kind of pattern, just genetic mutation in mice, because they were trying to check out the effects of growth hormones on cancer.
Yes.
So they induced a similar kind of condition in mice, blocking off particular growth factors so they weren't getting absorbed. And they've been looking at this for some 15 years. There's a guy called Walter Longo. So he's a professor in gerontology and stuff. Yeah, Longo. He said when they did this mutation to mice, they had a 50% less incidence of cancer. Also, they had a 50% longer lifespan, but I'll get to that in a tick. So this is in mice. And he said, so basically, if they've started to confirm this in the human population, at least with cancer in Ecuador, and quite often it's unusual that mice stuff translates across to people.
So hang on, you're gonna tell me here that there's some sort of relationship between growth hormone and cancer. Like, is that
sure.
what yeah, okay.
Appears to be a relationship.
Yeah, all right.
But again, at least under these conditions. Yeah. So there's some kind of relationship. So basically he was saying that this Longo was saying that there'd be pretty good evidence that it's a good way to go to prevent cancers and develop drugs, which we're already trying to do. So mimic the mutations that you're seeing in the mice and now, of course, in the people. So they got billions of dollars, and the National Institutes of Health were throwing cash at them, of course, because it's cancer. And Longo met Guevara in 2002. So before that, he was just doing this anyway. He was checking out growth hormone and trying to work out what was going on. Then he met Guevara and went, fuck, this is great. This studies that are going on the Lauren, whatever people could push his research forward by maybe 20 years, he was saying. So just leap ahead in leaps and bounds. Because as I was saying, most drug tests in mice don't get through to human populations as much as we popularly seem to think so. Working in a mouse doesn't mean it works in a human. But Longo says almost everything we found in those 100 people and their ancestors, others have shown in mice, like exactly mimicked across.
That's amazing, though, that working in a field and having that hunch beforehand, and then finding other researchers have worked on that population who've got that effect in the wild,
and having this pre-existing group, it's very convenient. So what does that mean? So basically, if you don't want to get cancer, do this. You get small dick and big breast, but you don't get cancer.
Okay.
I mean, that seems like a concern.
Indeed.
So Longo says no. He reckons you could try giving it to adults, and he's saying, oh no, the side effects could be controlled. Like, don't worry about it.
Yeah, that sounds like one of those American ads for a drug where anal leakage and.
Side effects include a list 19 times longer than anything we've studied, and the packet is twice the size.
But in their defense, they are looking at cancer, which is something that a lot of people don't want. So it's not like
it's not popular.
It's not like it's a teeth whitening cream.
Maybe you could do that,
which
too.
People also want. But I'm just saying, it's in terms of people's priorities here.
This dwarves had very bright teeth as well. It's amazing. So, of course, he said, look, he's imagining a world where it'll be as common as a statin to prevent blood pressure issues, etc. But there's a long way to go, standard science thing. Now, on the longevity thing, though, it's a bit more mixed up. So dwarf mice, the ones that they'd engendered this situation in, they were living 40, 50% longer than normal mice, as well as having the cancer effects. But with the Lawrence people, it's a bit more confusing. So in Ecuador, they were affectionately apparently referred to as viejitos.
Just anytime someone refers to a group of people affectionately, I feel like the world is learning that maybe it's not affection. Maybe not. It's like affectionately referred to their slave population as
exactly. Those little cunts that we own. Yes, exactly. It's like, that's not cute.
Indeed. Affection might mean, yes, you have some charitable feelings towards them in some ways, but you also belittle them and marginalize them and keep them as slaves. So let's keep going with your affectionate referred to as.
It's hard to belittle them because they're already little.
Stop it.
Can you say that?
No, stop it. No, you can't.
Anyway.
No, you don't need to.
They were not successfully, affectionately referred to as viejitos, which apparently means little old people.
Look, okay, it could be worse, and yes. Oh,
there are many worse things they could call them.
Yes, it probably would be better if they were known for their, their hobbies and their talents and their
painting.
Indeed.
Their love of pediatric endocrinology, for example.
Even if they were kids, they were called the little old people.
Little old people because they apparently appeared to age prematurely.
Okay.
So that's kind of confusing.
That's why they seem like they're looking old, that they live for a long time. It's just because they look old for a long time.
Yeah, you're still going and you're 14? Oh. No, but so apparently historically they did live very long lives. And so Guevara went to visit with this reporter, the oldest living Laron in that area. She was 85 years old, described as quite exuberant. And her traditional diet of farm produce, they say, has kept her healthy.
Traditional diet of farm produce. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
What people around the world have not lived on a traditional diet of farm produce, except for hunter-gatherers. Other than that, we all live on a traditional diet of farm produce.
And chips.
Did they come from farms originally as well?
All of it?
Everything.
What about the delicious chemicals they sprinkle on to make you want them more?
They may take them from farm products and mix other farm products to make something different in a factory, but it still comes from a farm.
Huh. Well, shut up. You're just mean. Don't be mean to Pastorita.
Look, I like it. I like eating farm products, but I'm not.
I feel very affectionate.
I'm not a miracle worker for eating farm products.
No, you're not. But anyway, she was claiming this. Today, however, because she's an older lady, she'd be 95-ish or whatever now.
And looks still 95 or looks...
Still looks old.
Yeah, okay.
But she probably looked old from the beginning. They were saying that today the Ecuadorians who have the same mutation don't tend to live any longer than their unaffected relatives.
Okay.
But they die of different things. They die of accidents, alcohol-related causes, convulsive disorders related to epilepsy.
Not good.
No, and it's also not unusual that people with dwarfism in general tend to die of lifestyle and mental health related matters because they're not always super happy about their situation.
And society doesn't help with that. Yeah. So
society doesn't help. As I understand it, I don't know about these guys, but when I've seen documentaries and things talking about people with different kinds of dwarfism, they're in a lot of pain a lot of the time.
Yeah, I've heard. Yeah.
And so I'm guessing that's not cool.
Yeah.
But this didn't come up with the Larons. Maybe they're fine. Maybe that's one of the things. Also, they're suggesting the younger ones are dying earlier because they have small hearts and they're eating all the more recent fats and cholesterols and shit that's going on in the world, which isn't helping. So, Longo, the researchers call us, we are very disappointed. They all seem to die of strange causes. So good on you, champ. But then it still gets messier because at the molecular level, so they live longer, but they don't, but they do. Maybe it's modern lifestyle, maybe it's not. So molecular level, I love this. This is vampiric. They mixed some of the Laron participants in the experiment's blood with human cells that don't have the syndrome. So they're mixing blood together.
Okay.
And the Laron's components seem to protect the others against cell damage and altered the genes that are linked to life extension.
Really?
Yeah.
How do you do what? Oh.
So we're all going to start injecting Laron dwarf blood or something. It's going to become a black market of horror.
Of course people have done that. Of course people do that. Everyone.
So it's very interesting. The longevity thing is messy.
But you can inject a bit and protect yourself from cancer.
Suck it and see.
Yeah.
I've been watching a lot of vampire stuff lately, so for me that was most fascinating. Like, ooh. So it's messy, but the cancer thing seems to be pretty strong. So the future of this, so Guevara, the original endocrinologist, his quote is, "We have this wonderful experiment of nature," which
thank you.
You kind of go, and of course he's not a monster. He adds, it's very tragic for the patients, but it's a wonderful opportunity for us, the researchers.
Indeed, thank you, scientist. Thank you, scientist. Yeah. Experiment of nature.
Terrible. Yeah, it's terrible for them.
Look at you delightful experiment of nature. Affectionately referred to. There you go. Affectionately referred to as an experiment of nature.
Yeah, tragic.
Perhaps don't. Hey, scientists, perhaps don't affectionately refer to people as an experiment of nature. I don't know. I don't know if that's the word.
I think it's too late. We'll have to save ourselves. We'll be better at this, but others, it's too late for them. And they're really excited because basically they can understand what happens when the human body has low growth hormones, etc.
Yes.
So the journo says, so do you think this will lead to a cure for cancer?
Of course.
Of course you can ask that. And Guevara, I haven't even seen a photo of him, but I can imagine him sitting back and stroking his revolutionary beard with his cigar. And so he says, I'm a very conservative person. The only thing I can tell you is
no revolutionary beard. No, he can't have a revolutionary beard if he's a conservative person.
If a conservative.
Yeah.
But that could be a front.
Okay, all right.
You can't trust these revolutionaries. They could do anything. I'm a very conservative person. The only thing I can tell you is that this thing will lead to understand a little more of the phenomenon of cancer.
Yes, that's true. Thanks, buddy. Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, but look, I get it. You don't want to go out on a limb and say, yes, I've cured cancer. No.
Well, unless you have. But I feel like you need to be pretty confident. That shouldn't be a maybe. That should be a no. In every type of cancer I've ever touched with my magical cancer stick.
I get. You don't want to get people's hopes up. But I don't know why that's the scariest thing in the world, getting people's hopes up.
In these troubled times, we could all use a bit of hope, couldn't we?
Oh, indeed.
So there's also something else, though, that kind of gets buried in all this. Guevara and his patients, actually, the reason he was studying them to begin with was to try and help them with their condition.
Yeah.
So he turns out that their stunted growth, etc., could easily be normalized with regular injections of human growth hormone if it happens before adolescence.
Okay. Before they hit puberty, you could help it along.
Yeah, you could dose them up. Now, what that does to anti-cancer effects, etc., I don't know. My assumption would be if their connections are right, that might your normal height, but you've got cancer.
Yeah, unless perhaps the anti-cancer pathway is different. It's something else about them. Yeah,
could be a correlation. But so what the problem with that is, of course, this treatment, particularly because you're talking America or South America, it would cost tens of thousands of dollars. So most people in developing countries like Ecuador can't afford it.
Yeah,
drug companies have promised to deliver them for free or very cheap, but never have.
Sad. Those drug companies normally are so nice. I don't know why they're missing out on this one.
Yeah, so it's messy, but I mean, I think it's fascinating. So this is as close as I could get to finding a mutation that doesn't look great, as in not good for you, but it could make you immune to cancer. It could make you live longer as long as you have, a lifestyle of foods produced directly from the farm.
Oh, you said directly now.
I just added it. Let's make it look good. So my question for you is then, what would you give up or trade off?
For what?
If to not get cancer, diabetes, or something like, would you be prepared to be a foot shorter?
Yeah, here's the thing. When people are asked, what would you give up to not get cancer? People will be like, lots of,
mate.
Yeah, but not red meat or bacon or, a whole bunch of the other things that have been shown to be at least slightly cancer causing. Oh, and we know, people, it's hard to give up a bunch of things that you like. Look.
No, but it reminds me of the shows I've briefly fascinated with, my 600-pound life shows, these hugely obese Americans who are all linked by this one doctor who does fat surgery, fat removal stuff. And all of them, they come waddling in and they're huge people. I mean, we're not talking a bit portly. We're talking immensely debilitating.
Very, very difficult lives. Yeah.
And every one of them will say, I'll try anything. And you're like, no, you won't.
Well,
you mean you're prepared to undergo surgery? That's not the same as I'll try anything.
Yeah, it's tough though. It's really...
I'm not saying it's easy, but what I mean is it's exactly what you're saying. Like, what would you be prepared to trade off? To not get cancer, would you stop smoking? Oh, no, I wouldn't do that though.
Well, that's the thing. But I mean, it's trade this one hamburger versus giving it up for... we don't make changes like that. We don't make changes to our lives based on something mythical that's 40 years in the future. We make it based on how we can structure our life in the here and now. And maybe if you want this rather than that, you can lean in a certain direction. If you remove
this, we promise nothing like this will happen.
So I don't know. I don't think I'd give up anything to be guaranteed not to die of cancer. I just...
What about you? No diseases of aging. You live healthily to 110, but micro penis. You've got kids now. Who cares?
Yeah, exactly. It's done. It's done.
Only for procreation and piddling. Doesn't need to be big to piddle.
Exactly. Well, there you go. That's an interesting.
They're going. How did I not already have one of those? That's just ongoing.
Well, that's okay. Look, there's an interesting trade-off because it's not a real one because how does that actually happen?
Well, I wonder though. I mean, I assume it's because it's a developmental period in your life. But if you're given things that mess with the way you interact with growth hormone,
look, I think there you go. There is actually a really interesting. It's a medical ethics sort of question.
a little bit.
How do we boil up the side effects? What is our discussion of side effects? Because there's not very many medicines that are effective that don't have some sort of side effect.
Yes.
What do they do to other bits of you? And
no, they're not side effects. They're called added bonuses.
Added bonuses.
They're for free.
You've been attempting to get a micropenis forever. So
Oh God, if only. I'm thinking about a reduction. It's a nightmare.
Yeah, I think you wait until you're in a. I get it. I'll let it go.
I can see it in your eyes.
I think that there's a this is the what's the psychology of loss aversion versus future positives. How much do you think? How much would I value that live to 110, never getting sick versus I'm in a state of horrendous pain right now. What can I do to take that away? And well, I don't know if I've named the right bias there actually, but you will be far more likely to do something to get rid of a horrible state now than to think of this possible future gain that is somewhat mythical.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it is the classic, if you do this, then we promise that won't happen.
Yeah.
It's like, well, how do I know it's going to happen anyway? And by when? If it happens at 104.
So what are you trading off? What are you trading off to live to 110, healthy, no cancer?
Nothing. I don't believe in trade-offs. Have your cake and eat it too. Damn right.
Nice.
Why have cake if you can't eat it? I mean, I figure I don't want to trade off anything.
It turns around though if someone says, okay, then otherwise you get guaranteed to die 2 years later. That's a very different equation.
Yeah, it is. And look, I'm tough talking, and also I do make certain sacrifices for this, ruddy good looks and youthful exterior. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was thinking like, what if you were told basically, you could live very healthily till 100, but you can't drink again, or you can't process alcohol well. So whenever you drink, you just become, a bed shitting drunk immediately. So you can drink, but it's not good for you. But you will live to 100 really healthily.
I don't know, bed shitting drunk. I'd find that pretty easy to give up alcohol at that point. If you have one sip and then you're shitting your pants, I'm like, okay, cool, I'm not doing that. Like
pass out and wake up in your own poo. I'm going to live to 100.
The negatives are and that's an immediate negative. Like drinking's fun and I enjoy it, but shit in the bed is a lot worse.
Look, I don't remember doing it as an adult.
I think if there was a 1-to-1 relationship between drinking and shitting the bed, I would definitely say goodbye drinking.
Yeah, I think it's I might not drink the booze, but yeah, I don't know. I can't imagine.
God, you'd have to be a really locked on alco to go. Look,
It's worth it.
It's worth it. It's worth it.
I'll wear a diaper, live to 100, and keep drinking. Oh, look, some might. It's pretty sad when it gets really bad. But yeah, I can't think of anything specific. I mean, if I had to be a foot shorter, I really wouldn't want to be shorter because I'm used to being what my generation used to call tall.
I get it.
But you know what I mean? Like the idea, if it was now, obviously it wouldn't, because they'd say, okay, we're going to saw a foot of your legs off, but you're going to live a long time. Obviously,
these are very tough trade-offs because they're also mythical. You know, when it's presented to you as a side effect that's concrete right in front of you, that's a very different sort of question.
Well, maybe you get acne.
Maybe.
Honestly, I lived through acne. It was shitty, but somehow pulled through.
It's not good. The Wholesome Show is brought to you by the Australian National Centre for the Public Awareness of Side Effects and Science.
And survivors.
I'm Will Grant.
Acne. I'm a survivor of acne.
He's a survivor of acne. And hopefully no one needs to get cancer.
Won't be long.
Sadly.
We've nearly fixed it.
Can't solve that right now.
Monday.
We'll see you later, listener.